step I take, I move my truth. Every time they tell me stop, I use every comment, hate that makes my fuel. Gather up my energy and boom, I hear them talking, saying the way that I move is so reckless. That is a part of my mind I've been blessed with, giving my blood so I am relentless.
This is a Keep Hammering Collective with Aaron Rodgers. I can't believe you're here.
I can't either. I didn't even know you a month ago.
No, I know.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Thank you, Joe Rogan.
I know, Joe. Yeah, he mentioned, so it was after you were on his podcast, which is a nice little fun startup podcast. Hopefully he has a lot of success with.
Yeah, I think so. He keeps working hard. I think he's kind of at the criticism part. He's got to, on
get
the
past
wall,
it.
and sacrifices,
Right.
and persistence.
Oh, I know.
And at some point, he'll be at the success thing.
Yeah, so stick with it, Joe. Don't give up. But no, he told me that you were, so what were we talking about? Was it bow hunting or archery or what?
I was talking, because at his studio, he's got that big, long kind of hallway with all his, stuffed
Oh, the mounts.
animals, on the wall, and some targets. And I said, man, I'd love to get into bow hunting. I feel like, you talk about it all the time, and have some friends who are into it. And I love fly fishing, but I think it'd be fun to do some bow hunting. He's like, I got the guy. It's like, cool. So afterwards, he's like, talk to this guy. I'll probably have you on his podcast. All you gotta do is go up to Oregon. I said, easy. I love Oregon.
I can't believe it. Yeah, he texted me after that, and he goes, I talked to Aaron Rodgers. He's interested about, archery. I told him he needs to come see you, and so here you are.
Here we are.
Crazy.
Springfield, Oregon.
I know. I mean, it was so hard for me because obviously we're big sports fans, right? And like I went to breakfast with my buddy the other day at this place we always go down on campus, and I go, yeah, dude, you won't believe who's coming on the show. Because we've had some cool people, but like for sports fans, NFL rules the world, right?
Of course.
And then to be like one of the best quarterbacks ever. So I said, yeah, Aaron Rodgers is coming Sunday. He's like, no way. I mean, just going, nobody could believe it. So it's a huge honor to have you here. I can't, and also I guess the biggest part before I am not just like the fanboy is just sharing what I do with somebody like you and going to the bow rack, which is where, Wayne's owned the bow rack for over 30 years.
Yeah, what a legend that guy is.
And where I have shot for decades, and then to have you there, and then of course up on Spencer's Butte, and then lifting weights here, amazing day. What did you think of it?
I had a blast. I think in general, if you've been able to do something at a high level in your vocation, you know how hard it is to get to that point. And I think it gives you a keen interest and affection for mastery in other fields. And so I'm always just fascinated by other people who do things at a high level, who have figured out how to master a skill or multiple skills. And just when when Joe gave me information, and I did a big Instagram search of you and went with your page, just was so impressed by the work that you've done, your mastery of this, and your willingness to share this with other people and to create a platform to tell great stories. So for me, I just have so much respect because I know what it takes to be great at what I do. And it's the same focus in anything else. Like we're just talking about down at the range, like when you're great at something, you think, I could just pick this shit up and just be amazing.
Yeah.
It takes like Gladwell says, it takes like 10,000 hours to master something.
Right.
And so it just gives you such a keen respect for someone who's spent the time to become a master at something. And I think there's something just beautiful about that in life. And we all have that inside us in some way. And I think some people have just, it's untapped. They've either given up on a dream or got caught in the rat race. But to be able to meet you and to see what you're passionate about, when somebody's passionate about something too, is so inspiring. Just, just talking to Joe and listening to his podcast all the time and seeing how much he loves hunting and bow hunting especially. And, listening to him call an MMA fight, even if you're not a fan, just like the excitement and the fun that him and DC have, it's just like, it kind of brings you into it. You're like, oh man, like to see that passion for something, it just inspires you to like want to learn more about it. I think for me, at least personally. And so with bow hunting, to like get to know you now and to see your mastery of it, to feel your passion for it. I've got the itch right now.
That's awesome. And it's like, I do think that there is a common theme. I mean, I can't compare myself to an NFL great, but that passion, or like what I always say is I like having outliers here, because I feel like I can learn from an outlier. Just to your point about somebody who they stand out in whatever field they do for whatever reason, I can learn from somebody like that. It doesn't really matter what the thing is. It's just how they've poured themselves into it. And it's actually how Joe found me. Same way. He loves watching YouTube, still does, but he was watching me carry this rock up this mountain.
Yeah.
And he's like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? Right? I mean, he's just carrying this big rock up a mountain.
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh, watching me shoot the bow. And so in 2014, he tweeted out, said, hey, Cameron Haynes, do you want to come to LA and talk about training and bow hunting? And that was it, and then, but it was just that same, what you just kind of alluded to, is that passion for whatever it is, somebody pours themselves into it. It's hard to ignore.
Yeah.
And,
and you want to be involved in that. You're like, man, that looks fun. Like you just see how much excitement and joy you get out of doing something. And I think all of us are eager to especially the people that you and I hang out with, just learning and growing and acquiring new skills and rubbing shoulders with people who are masters in whatever they're doing. I mean, it's fun. It's inspiring to be around people who just like have that zest for life and love, climbing a mountain or, going out in the woods for 4 days, and being as precise and quiet and careful and cunning as possible to shoot an animal. And then to not just shoot an animal, but to eat the meat, to share the meat, it's a harken back to days of old when there was a communal, hunting was communal.
Right.
It was a part of sustenance. It was the lifeblood of it. Every part of the animal was used, and I think there's a lot to be said for that.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think one thing you would like about it, just hearing more of your story, and you did your darkness retreat or whatever that was, but when you were just explaining hunting and like how you were like you kind of immersed in the mountains essentially. So to be in tune, that's when you're the best hunter, is when you're just part of nature.
Yeah. So
we're from the outside, from the comforts of civilization, but when you can immerse yourself in the mountains and into that, just the mountain lifestyle, that's when it all starts to click about, okay, I'm a hunter, I'm a predator, this is prey. And you start putting the pieces of the puzzle together, and it feels, you mentioned harkening back to days of old, it feels natural. It feels like, oh shit, what have I been? This is what I'm supposed to be doing. This is what my body's designed for, this type of survival. But we're so removed from it. So I think you would really, just knowing more about you now, I think you would like really grow and just appreciate that, I would guess.
Yeah, I think so too. And we talked about my love of fly fishing, and one of my favorite things about it is that you're in nature, your phone doesn't work, and you're completely present. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what the Darkness Retreat reminds you, if anything, and there's a lot of things that you can learn in those things, and I'm not recommending it for everybody, but it is one of those checklist things that like finding your new edge on what you can get through, because the darkness really tests every part of your being. But how often in life are we just present in those moments where the only thing that matters is where I am in that moment and the connection I have to my surroundings? Because like you said, you become immersed in that environment. When you're in the raft, waiting for that special spot to work your line, to get in the perfect drift so you have a chance to hook a fish, it's you're completely dialed and present in that exact moment. And I imagine it's like hunting, where you are figuring out the best place to be, to call in the animal, to be as quiet and focused as possible, but you become a part of that. And as we've moved out of the country and into cities, we've lost that connection with nature. Mm-hmm. And if you've ever read the book about grounding, what's it called? Is it called Grounding? But it's talking about the connection that the earth has to our body. Mm-hmm. And they make grounding sheets that I actually sleep on that reorient your body with nature. Mm. And I think as we moved again out of the city, out of the rural forests and the cabins into cities, we've lost our connection with nature. Mm-hmm. And most people can't spend 5 minutes without looking at their phone and scrolling through social media and catching up on their text. And
Yeah.
I just love being out there, immersed in nature and fully present and kind of unplugged. And it's a catch-22 because the more I'm unplugged from, my phone, the more I am plugged in back to myself.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you mentioned that, and I would venture to guess that when you're shooting today at the bow rack and you're focusing on all those things you're supposed to, you probably weren't thinking about anything else other than that, right? Yeah. And that's, you mentioned fly fishing, but archery can be the same way. To perform archery at the highest level, you can't be distracted by anything else. You're focused on drawing that bow back, the anchor points, all the things you need to do, then releasing a perfect arrow. So you're very in tune with that moment. And as you said, it's a fleeting feeling nowadays. It's just to be completely in tune and immersed. And I was curious too. Okay, so just to catch people up to speed, you were in the darkness retreat for 3 days, right?
Yeah, 4 nights, 5 days, 4 nights, 3 like full days. Mm-hmm. So parts of 5 days, 4 nights. So you go on the first night, eat your dinner, and then orient yourself with a room. Then you shut off the lights, and then it's pure darkness until on the 5th day in the morning, he comes and opens the door, and
there's no window,
put a blindfold. There's nothing.
No crack under the door.
There's a little bit of sound, but you're up in the mountains in a tiny little hobbit house with a bathtub, with a little yoga mat, with a meditation little beanbag, and a toilet and a sink. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, a lot of time to be alone with your thoughts. I'm thankful for that time, but it's not something that I'm signing up to do again anytime soon.
Well, so what I was curious about is, your life. Generally, people want to, put you in this box of you're a football player, which I don't know how you look at yourself. But anyway, I was curious, in those 4 days or 5 days, 4 nights, whatever it was, how often were you thinking about football as opposed to just life?
I mean, I start each day with meditation. And so I do a long like yoga stretch, and then I've been practicing transcendental meditation for a number of years now. So I just went into my mantras, and I would ask, my intention would be to bring to mind at the end of the meditation what I want to focus on my thoughts for that day. So the first 2 days were not about football. The second 2 were. So the third day was about what is life like for me as a retired player? And I think for so many of us, when we stop doing what we do, if we find our entire identity in that job or in that archetype, when it's gone, so many of us have a hard time figuring out, like, well, who am I without fill in the blank? Mm-hmm. And I think that's when depression can set in, substance abuse can set in, lack of hope can set in. So I really wanted to sit with all the fears and insecurities I had around who am I if I'm not a football player. And so I spent the entire day, which was probably like 4 a.m. until 10 o'clock at night, thinking about life as a retired player, after football. And it really, by the end of the day, I had a beautiful piece about who I was without football. And I'm really thankful for that. And then the following day, I woke up, I did my yoga, I did my meditation, and the intention was, okay, now if I'm going to play, what do I want life to look like as a player? And so it was good, really good clarity around all that. I came out of that wanting to play and feeling like I still had more to give, and also pretty convinced I was going to be somewhere other than Green Bay. Now, during that time, they had also decided, corresponding with my darkness retreat, whether intentional or not, that they were probably ready to move on too. And so, although it was a little bit tenuous at times, the breakup ended up happening over the next 6 weeks.
Yeah, it's I mean, so much of your life is kind of under a microscope. I'm curious. As I said, I doing research. I did research
Recon,
on you.
a lot of recon.
Yeah,
yep.
yeah. So I was watching YouTube videos, which is about as deep as research as I get. But it was pretty interesting in learning that, because everybody sees where you are now and, the superstar and everything. But you were kind of under the film that I watched anyway. You were like undersized in high school and then didn't really get recruited for the Division I programs. I don't think that you wanted. So you ended up walking on or playing into community college. Is that right? So how do you go from that to like one of the best quarterbacks of all time?
I think that's how you go, is if you embrace the adversity. And as I look back over the last 22 years of my life playing, the greatest moments of growth and learning experiences were associated with an ego death in some way or another. And that's kind of an interesting term, and it's kind of thrown around from time to time in like the spiritual community. But it basically just means the idea of who you think you are gets destroyed. And so coming out of high school, all I watched, was college football on Saturday, watching Keith Jackson and Dan Fouts calling Pac-10 games, and then watching, Pat Summerall, John Madden, Al Michaels, Frank Gifford, Dan Dierdorf calling, football games on Sundays, and that's all I dreamt about doing. So when I came to my senior year and nobody wanted me, not even UC Davis down the road, I actually had gotten into U of O.
You had a good year, right?
I threw for 2,400 yards and a number of touchdowns, and we were a pretty good team. I was 6'2", 190. I wasn't getting a lot of interest from anybody. Some wonderful Division III schools across the Western United States, including Lewis and Clark up in Portland. And I had spent some time in Beaverton growing up and loved Oregon the 3.5 years I was here. But I just always thought I was going to be playing on Saturdays. And the best opportunity for me was to go down to Butte College, which was just down the road. Their coach, Craig Rigsby, is still a dear friend to this day, came over to the house and we had a great conversation. And I told him, listen, I'd like to play on Saturdays in Division I after a year if I have a good year. And unlike some, junior college coaches who would want you to play a couple of years, he said, of course. Now he's probably thinking, hey, take it easy. Let's just see if you can be a starter first.
Right.
But so the ego death of going from high school to a D1 and being on Saturdays and starting, I think allowed me to deal with adversity that made me a better player, a better person, broke me down, and I had to rebuild myself. And it happened as a backup at Cal. It happened as a backup in Green Bay for 3 years. It happened a couple other times during my time in the NFL. And every time I've kind of gone through one of those ego deaths, it's been a period of really intense growth. And I think it happens for all of us. And there might be other words people use for those type of things, but it's anytime you face adversity that kind of questions who you are as a person and what you want to be about and your identity. It allows you to return back to yourself, to return back to your center, and take some time thinking about the kind of person you want to be. So I'm thankful for those moments of adversity. Some people struggle with that. I've always, gotten inward and been reflective and tried to come out the other side a better person. And it's, in turn made me a better player, I think.
That seems like a very healthy way to look at it. Me, I would have a chip on my shoulder and be like,
plenty of those.
Oh, you fuckers don't think, okay, let's see this. So
just because you have an ego, that doesn't mean you don't stack up some chips on the shoulder.
Yeah. So you took a personal, right?
I went to Illinois team camp before my senior year, and I was still growing. I think I was like a little over 6 feet and 185 pounds.
But you had did you always have a live arm?
Always had a good arm. I was a good baseball pitcher. But I went to their camp because my quarterback coach had two famous coaching uncles, Norv Turner, who coached in the NFL for a long time, and Ron Turner, who at the time was the head coach of the University of Illinois. So we went out to their team camp. I had a nice camp. I got, I think, MVP of the camp, and they offered another kid who had actually practiced the day before we got there in a 7-on-7 event. So I kind of kept that on my shoulder, and then as the universe and her beautiful sense of humor, my first start in Division I was in Champaign at Illinois.
Oh,
in 2003.
so this is with Cal?
This is with Cal.
Yeah.
So I never forgot that, and we played them in like one of those weird Midwest 11 a.m. games. But I went out and had a nice game. We beat
Was
him.
Ron Turner the coach?
He was still the coach.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. And how did you do?
I think we beat him like 31-24, and I threw a couple touchdowns and almost 300 yards, and had a good game.
Did you say anything to him?
No, of course not.
What?
I mean, listen, I don't blame any of those, and I'm actually thankful for all those people. I mean, into my NFL years, I would keep on the wall a couple letters from colleges that we sent film to, and one of them was Illinois, and one of them was Purdue. And again, I don't blame any of those people. If they were watching my film, we didn't know what the hell to do. We were sending out full game films. We'd be playing Las Plumas, and I threw the ball 12 times in the game.
Yeah.
And expecting these guys to be like, oh, that's our fucking guy.
Yeah.
Hey, let's offer this skinny kid
Right.
who's wearing a knee brace from Pleasant Valley High School in Chico. No, I don't blame any of them. I mean, I'm so thankful, though. But Michael Jordan used to tell stories like this all the time, where he would, if he couldn't have a specific slight or criticism,
He'd make it up.
He'd make it up.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I made up these, these conversations that they would be having, like, oh, look at this kid here. Oh, he's not very good. And the fact that they wrote on here, like, you don't really compare well to the other players of your position in our recruiting class. I'm like, oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
So as much as the ego death helps, you also have to pair that with. I steal this from a coach of mine who said this in the NFL, but he said, you can inspire people, but motivation comes from within. And I really, really believe that. I think as a leader, it's really important for us to find ways to inspire the people around us. For me, that's my teammates, that's my coaches, that can be the fan base, to just get behind us and believe in us. But the best players, the most successful people are self-motivated. So whatever it takes to motivate. And for me, it's been chips for a long time. I was passed on by 23 teams in the draft. I didn't forget that.
Yeah, I bet.
No, I've given that up. That's long since passed. But you always got to find ways to stack some chips up to just get that little extra motivation.
Yeah, and I mean, I think even Brady has mentioned, like, he was taken, sixth round, right?
Yeah,
so all
he had 198 picks
right
in front of him. So
and
he had plenty
keeps track
of
all those quarterbacks ahead of him too. So I think you just had one, right?
I had one,
Smith.
but nobody from my draft class is still playing and hasn't been for a few years, and obviously I outlasted all those guys. But yeah, I mean, it's like you were talking about with your race in the Boston Marathon, where nobody knew that you were racing them.
Oh yeah, nobody knew it was me against Lance.
But nobody knows that I'm like trying to show some of these people like you made the wrong decision,
right?
Because I don't blame any of them. I mean, I wouldn't have recruited myself out of high school.
Yeah, that's beside the point.
But I'm still going to use his motivation, and I did.
So in the NFL, what's been the biggest chip you've used? I mean, I know that couldn't have been easy. Farve was a legend.
Yeah.
Right? They loved him in Green Bay.
They did, yeah.
So that couldn't have been easy, that transition. And then he was retiring, not retiring. How hard was that?
Well, most people don't know that in 2005, we played Seattle in the last game of the year, and we were 3-12, and they were on their way to the Super Bowl that year, so they would rest their guys, and we ended up getting up on them late in the game by a few scores, and they said, hey, Rook, like on the last drive, go take Brett out for a curtain call. So I was like, cool. But I was also thinking in the back of my mind, like, damn, this could be the last time he plays. This is like a weird change in the guard. So I went out there, dapped him up, and took a couple knees. And then in the locker room, he kind of gave like a retirement speech. It sounded like I'm done, guys. It's been a great run. So I was like, damn, I'm going to be the guy now.
Yeah.
And then he, next May, he's like, no, I think I'm going to come back, And then we play the whole 06 season, and we play Chicago at the end of the year. We're 7-8, and they're on their way to the Super Bowl. It's like a carbon copy of the previous year, and I didn't have a curtain call that game, but we win the game in Chicago on New Year's Eve and come back in the locker room, and it's the same type of thing. He's kind of giving a farewell, like oh man, like it's been a great run. I'm like, oh, now it's my turn,
Yeah.
And then he comes back again, and then in 2007 we had a good team. We go 13-3 and lose an AFC Championship game in overtime to the Giants. And so I wasn't thinking anything. And I remember I was in...
and he was a quarterback still?
Yeah. Okay. So I'd been on the bench 3 years now. Mm-hmm. And he's just coming off a really good year where he's in MVP conversation. We were a really good team. Right on the doorstep. We had a chance to win the game. Lost in overtime to the Giants, who went on to beat the undefeated Patriots in the Super Bowl. Yeah. And so I was in my bed in San Diego, and I woke up at like 8 o'clock, and there was like 100 text messages. And I'm like, what the hell happened? Like, first I was like, somebody died. You know, like,
yeah.
And then it's like, no, Farve retired, and everybody's like, oh, you're the guy. And so I'm like, okay, I'm the guy. Finally. And then it goes crazy, the next few months. Like, now I'm trained to be the starter. Now I'm actually the guy. Then Brett's thinking I'm going to come back, and then there's a bunch of crazy stuff. So there was a lot of opportunity for motivation that I drew from comments from a number of people, including our fans. I mean, there was some really bizarre statements, death threats, bodily harm threats to my face, walking back from training camp practices. So I actually had some chips built up against some of my own fans during that 08 off season. But I think anytime you take the field, it's never a bad thing to feel like I got something to prove. Again, I steal this from, I don't know if it was Michael or Kobe said it, but the two of my favorite athletes ever. But they said, somebody asked him, like, what's your motivation for playing each night? Just like game 40 of an 82-game season. He said, every time on the court, there's somebody there who's never seen me play before. And I want to put on a show for him. I was like, that's fucking cool.
Yeah,
that's really cool.
That is.
So I have that motivation. Like every time I take the field, whether I'm at practice, like last year was fun because the Jets fan has never seen me in person. So, I'm taking the field, and many of these people have never seen me live. Like I got a chance to entertain, and we're in the entertainment business.
Right.
So I've always found ways to motivate myself, and then also just the responsibility of your teammates. Has always been a good motivator for me too, because I know how they look at me still, the expectations that they have on me. And I love that. I think for some people that pressure is hard, and you can maybe shrink in those moments, but I've always enjoyed that pressure to perform for your brothers. And I think there's a lot of honor in having pride in your performance. And I've always really felt like I want to go out and not just prove to myself, but prove to my guys and fans and somebody who's never watched me play before the kind of player I am. So there's always been fun ways to motivate myself. And then there's been plenty of detractors and critics over the years who've just made motivation a little bit easier.
Well, you're in the business for being criticized.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's got an opinion. Every fat fuck sitting on the couch watching you as a professional athlete compete knows what you should have done. Yeah. You know what I mean? Or
a lot of armchair quarterbacks.
A lot of it. It's like, I can't imagine the pressure.
And now you got your own fans.
Yeah.
You got your fantasy football owners.
Right.
And you got people betting on the game. So now you have extra people. It used to just be like your own fans.
Yeah.
Like, love you when you win and can't run you out of town when you lose. Now it's like, you fucked up for the fantasy owners, or you lost me money because I bet on you. I'm like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to play for my team and my city here.
So what I would guess is that all that pressure from all those different places couldn't compare to the pressure you put on yourself.
For sure. That's got to be, and I think every great athlete has that quality. And it goes back to the pride and performance. You hate to lose more than you love to win.
Right.
Can be a big motivator. And it is for me. And you hate that feeling of disappointing yourself first, your teammates, fan base, more than you even love to win. And winning is fucking awesome. I mean, it's incredible.
Yeah.
But it's embracing that. I think there's so much that goes into playing the quarterback outside of just the throwing and the plays and checks and everything. But the most important thing is who are you in those big moments, and who are you when the lights are brightest and game's on the line, and you either shrink in the moment or you rise to the occasion.
Ketone IQ is my podcasting superfood. I'm no Andrew Huberman, so talking for hours actually takes a lot out of my brain power, which I feel like Ketone IQ actually helps with. Ketone IQ is a clean energy boost without caffeine or sugar. It increases your blood ketone. I'm not on a keto diet, but by taking Ketone IQ, I can achieve the desired focus and energy for explosive workouts that ketones typically provide those in ketosis. You can find Ketone IQ at your local Sprouts or online at hvmn.com and use code CAM, C-A-M, for 20% off your first order. Hey guys, I'm going to tell you something a little personal. I got my labs done by a company called Blokes and found out that maybe they could help me. In order to keep grinding hard, I figured it was time for a check under the hood. Blokes helped me do that. They sent someone to my home for a blood draw. Never seen that many vials. I had a consultation with a clinician to go over the results, and they sent me a 40-page functional report. We went through stress markers, hormone markers, did a full thyroid workup, looked at heart health, and a lot more. We came up with a plan personalized to me based on my biomarkers and my goals. They sent me supplements and therapies to my door. Blokes looks at health differently than any doctor I've ever been to before. It's a proactive approach. It's in-depth. I think they are disrupting the sick care system, and I'm happy to support companies like them. Blokes is doing all they can to keep me hammering day after day. They're offering you 20% off labs if you use code CAM at checkout. Blokes.co/cam. That's blokes.co/cam for 20% off your labs. So were you always like that guy, like in high school? Did you love that pressure?
I always wanted a ball in my hand. So, and you know, kids, unfortunately, these days are specializing in one sport, I think way too early and way too often. But I played soccer, baseball, basketball growing up, football not till 8th grade. But in all those sports, I wanted to be in on the action. So I was point guard in basketball. I loved to pitch in baseball. I wanted to be a goalie or forward in soccer because I wanted the ball in my hands or on my feet in the most important moments. And I trusted myself to make the right play in those moments to help us win. And part of it is my favorite athletes were those people.
Yeah.
So I wasn't watching the Mark Eatons of the world and the Sean Bradleys, even though I love the obscure white 80s and 90s, super ogreish basketball players. But my favorite players were Michael Jordan and Joe Montana and Steve Young.
Yeah.
It was the guys in Brett Favre.
Ballers.
And Barry Sanders. Guys who had the ball in their hands in crunch time and wanted it.
Yeah.
And lived for those moments and rose to the occasion those moments.
And either you have that or you don't.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't, if that's not who you are, it's never going to work. And I don't know. I mean, so I was curious. So you went to Cal, you earned the starting job pretty quick, right?
Yeah. I was a backup for 4 games.
And so how does the trust of teammates start? Because everything I've seen is that your teammates love you. So why?
Well, they won't care about what you say until they know how much you care. And so you got to first invest in the relationships. And that's a lot of little different things, but it's finding ways to connect with each player. And there's something special about having an inside joke with somebody or a nickname with somebody where the one person calls you something. And still to this day, a former teammate of mine at Butte who calls me rookie. It's happened multiple times in the last 20 years, 19 years as a player, where I'm like out by the buses after a game and I hear rookie. And I know exactly who it is. It's my boy Sean, who I play with at Butte. And I tell that story to say that there's something special about that personal connection you can have with people. Okay. And it's finding ways to connect. And there's little things you can do. Remembering birthdays, remembering wives' names, kids' names, something where you show them that you're invested in their life. And then in turn, they return that trust and love and affection. And they'll listen to you and they'll follow you. And as a leader, that's what you need. You need your guys to be all pulling in the same direction. So how do you do that? You got to invest in the relationships. And I just always tried to focus on that. Now, it's a delicate dance when you're not the starter because you're not trying to step on the starter's shoes, but you're trying to make sure you're putting yourself in a position for when your time does come, those guys know what you're all about. So for me, when I was a backup in Green Bay, my whole life was a scout team. So I inspired the hell out of those guys. I said, let's go out and dominate our first team defense every day. Let's over-celebrate. Why? Because let's get them to play harder. If they play harder, then we're going to get a really intense practice.
Yeah.
And just watch. When we start making plays, you're going to get elevated. I'm not. I'm going to be the backup. I'm behind the Iron Man. He ain't coming out.
Yeah.
But you're going to get elevated. You're going to be on the roster. You're going to be playing the games. So it's how do I inspire these guys to just give a little bit more?
Would you tell them that?
Oh, for sure. For
yeah.
sure.
It wasn't just an unspoken.
No. That was like, hey, let's get after these boys. Let's celebrate the hell out of this and just watch what happens.
Okay.
Like, yeah, we're working on the scout team now. We're running Detroit's offense. But in a couple of weeks, you're going to be running our offense on the field in crunch time when the game's on the line. And, even this last year, as rough as a year as it was, the last 3 weeks I practiced with our guys and I ran the scout team.
Really?
And I fucking love the scout team. I mean, it can be so fun because...
Did you beat the ones?
Oh, we got after them pretty good. But I just said, give me just a little bit extra.
Yeah.
Just give me a little time. Let's light them up. Hey, give me a little extra on this route. Hey, run this thing like a little certain way. Because when you make it fun, it just raises all the level. And the best athletes, people always say kind of the same thing about them, right? They raise the level of their teammates to their level. And how do you do that? You set a standard. And I'm always trying to tell my guys this. When we take the field, everything that we do, when we're at the facility, it's intentional. So every conversation is intentional. Where we sit at lunch is intentional. Our note-taking is intentional. When we get on the field, every rep is intentional. It's not to be a robot or a hard ass or anything. It's just like, if we're here, let's get the most out of it. And when you set that standard, everybody's got to either raise their level to meet it or they fall off. And it creates a real easy line drawn in the sand on who's going to be all in and who's not quite there yet.
Right.
And that's what you want to find out. Who's going to jump on the boat with you?
Yeah.
Who's going to storm the beaches together with you? Who's going to be left behind?
Right.
Who can you count on when shit gets crazy?
Yeah, I like that where everything's intentional, and I'm not trying to compare my redneck life to yours, but like people, I'll shoot through the window of my truck just for focus, and they'll be like, "Oh, that's stupid. Why are you doing that?" But it's intentional because when you're hunting, you have to be able to eliminate all distractions and focus on the target, right? So I've said this the other day in a post that everything I do is intentional to make me a better bow hunter, whether it's running the mountain or lifting weights or shooting my bow. So when you say that it's intentional, that really with me that resonates. And then also you said something about, talked about Jordan and you put the pressure on yourself. It's not the outside pressure. And I felt that too, because I have sponsors, this and that. Again, I'm not trying to compare myself, but no pressure from outside is ever going to trump the pressure I put on myself to win, and compete in the mountains or whatever. So when you say those words, I totally get that.
And that to me is the definition of mental toughness. Like people throw out these terms all the time. What is mental toughness? It's that no expectation outside of your own reality can ever match the expectation you put on yourself. And just to go back to what you just said, somebody who is at an elite level as an archer, right, should be able to stand unobstructed like you did today, like I saw you over and over, right, at however many yards we were away, and just pepper the bullseye.
Yeah.
Right? But who can do it when you adjust the parameters a little bit? And that's what I do in every drill. I'm always like, listen, if you're in the NFL, you should be able to take a drop back, take a nice little hitch, and throw a ball on time. But can you do it running full speed to the right? Can you do it with a hard offset? Can you do it with a big hitch? Can you do it with a soft hitch? So why are we out there in drills operating in perfect environment?
Yeah.
Because when we're at the top of our game, we should be able to do this. But how do you get better? You put yourself in real life situations. For you, it's like a real life hunt, like where I got a tight window and I got to wait till the perfect moment to for me, it's like I'm in a stressful environment where I'm moving, offsetting hard. A guy's running at me or I'm on the run. Can I make the accurate throw? Because that's going to, I'm sure just like you, for me, the most important thing, I said this on our hike today, is recall. So can I lock in that rep that I took where I ran full speed to my right and threw a ball to a guy in the sideline and made sure I aimed about 1.5 yards inside because the ball tails for a righty to the right in order to put the ball in the proper spot so a guy can catch on the sidelines and make a catch. For you, it's, okay, I've been in this environment before. I've shot through the truck, with maybe a light wind on my right, and I'm trying to adjust for everything, and there might be some noises and people yelling at me and distractions, a car driving by, and can I still hit the bullseye? It's then when I get in the moment, can I recall what that felt like to have distractions, to have a little bit of wind, to have something going on and still be able to make that perfect shot? For me, can I be able to move, have a guy chasing me full speed, be able to run and remember what it felt like to just have that ball come off perfect?
And so when you're doing that, is that just instinct? Because you're not thinking about the wind and this and that. Is it a feel?
It's a feel, but you have to lock that away.
Right.
So you make that, it's the idea of muscle memory, like another one of these interesting terms that people just throw around. But muscle memory is being able to attach a feeling with a rep. So I attached that feeling, what it felt like in my body for my twist, for my coil, for the release point, to be able to throw the ball perfect. And after 20 reps, can I lock this thing away to where if I ever need to bring that up in the moment where I'm outside the pocket, can I do that? There was a throw I made in 2016 playoffs. We're playing Dallas, 3rd and 20 with like 13 seconds left, and we call the play that actually came up in a bullshit session on a Saturday walkthrough where we dash the protection left, lineman leaks out, and is my personal protector, and I'm running at about 80% to my left and trying to throw a ball 40 yards down the field to a mark. And people are like, how the hell did you make that throw? I said, I made it in practice. I made it in practice multiple times. We would practice a play very similar. And I remember in my body what it felt like to be moving hard to my left and to be able to put the ball exactly where I want it. And so you lock in that rep with that memory. And the recall is being able to just tap into that in a split second and to just feel that ball off your hand go exactly where you want it.
I've never heard anything explained like in football explained like that. Do you think that that's a lot or an art that many people don't master or don't get? Or, I mean,
I think more times than not, especially I'll just say in drill work, people are so much more concerned about how it looks than how it feels. And how it feels is way more important. Because like I said, if you can't drop back and throw a ball accurately off a hitch, you're not going to last long in the league. But can you do it with a tight hitch, with a guy running past you, with an offset, with a second hitch? If you train yourself in the most difficult environment, then the easy stuff becomes even easier, and the hard stuff is also easier.
This is why I like having these conversations, because I can relay a lot of what you say into my world. So when I hear you say that, I have a saying that's train hard, hunt easy, where my training is going to be much more hard than even the hardest hunt. So I'm training at a highest level. I hunt easy, meaning that this is nothing compared to, a 100-mile run or 200-mile run. This is hunting. So I can focus on that. So that's what I took from what you just said, where when it's perfect, whatever, you should be able to do that. That's your job. But how do you perform when everything's against you? And one thing I noticed in watching, the film of you, and I'm sure you've heard this before, I would guess, but what I see when you throw the ball is it looks like the ball is, very available to catch. It's not just hard. It's just like delivered, and do the receivers like catching your ball? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is that...
There's two types of throws. There's a heavy throw and a light throw. And that has nothing to do with speed. So the more rotation you get, the easier it is to catch. So guys always said about this, going back to high school, that the ball kind of gets on them. It doesn't look like it's coming that fast. So a harder ball that's not spinning a lot, you can see the laces the whole time. So it gets on you quicker, but it's harder to catch because it hits your hands a little stiffer. But the more rotation you get, the tighter spiral, the easier it is to actually catch. So I've always had a really good flick, and a lot of it is just natural. I've always been able to throw it really well. I think some of it's my pitching. I've always had a really good arm. But I think another trait is I've always been super curious about guys who do things better than me and just watching. And I was fortunate. I got to watch the first ballot Hall of Famer. And so every single day for 3 years, I watched this guy and studied the hell out of him and said, what is he doing that I can't do yet that I want to add to my game? And any little thing, I just was like, let me work on that on the side. Let me work on this on the side. Let me work on this in a drill. And you're just adding tools to your tool belt. And when you put all that stuff together with already a good arm and really good spin
Right.
on it and the ability to throw the ball outside the pocket and accurately on the run, then you can have, a lot of sustained success in the league.
Who have you tried to model your game after?
Well, Farve,
Yeah.
for sure. I mean,
Because he was known as like the gunslinger, right? I mean, and did he throw, it seemed like a lot more interceptions than you throw.
yeah, I mean, I've only had a few years of double-digit interceptions in my career, but he definitely took
More chances?
More chances, I would say.
But you have to take chances because you had 40-some TDs in a year. I mean, you can't not take chances.
You definitely,
and have that many.
it's all calculated. Everything is calculated.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of it is pre-snap calculations. What is my best matchup? And then, you have to, in tenths of a second, be able to adjust the level of throw, whether it's a level 1, 2, or 3 throw. 1 is kind of on a line, 2 is a little more air, and 3 is, with plenty of air. And then adjust based on matchup, on separation, on different things, and be able to and it just all goes back to practice and remembering reps and remembering what it feels like and kind of storing those away. So in the moment you're like, oh, I've made this throw before. I got to throw a back shoulder ball to Jordy in a low spot on tight coverage where they're even in the red zone in order for him to make this play. Or I got to throw this ball high, like in 17, we're playing Dallas, and I throw a semi-back shoulder ball to Devontae, but I realized the way the defender was playing, the only ball that I could slip in on the back shoulder was a ball above the shoulders. So in the moment, as I hold the safety, down the middle and then turn to Devontae, I know this ball's got to be about 8 feet off the ground and in a semi-back shoulder to be completed. So to be able to feel what that feels like to get it up in that spot with the right velocity and the right placement, it just goes back to stuff you've worked on in practice and being able to draw back on those experiences where you're not operating in a perfect environment with no defenders. It's like, no, give me something out there just a shadow so I can feel what it feels like to throw right the back of his head on the back shoulder. And again, I think that's where you grow, is where you put yourself in the most adverse situations. And to circle back to the point, when coaches and or players are way more concerned about what it looks like than how it feels, it's really hard to grow because you're just going to be hoping for perfect passes in practice.
Yeah.
Instead of oh, you missed that one. Perfect. That's exactly what you want.
Right.
Because
Here's
now
how we
you've got a
fix it.
feeling. Oh, shoot. I was a little on my front foot on that one. I was, my hitch was a little too much, or I got to have more weight on the back, or I got to put a little bit more air on this ball when it's 25 yards outside the numbers. Those are the ones that, working with young quarterbacks, I'm like, that's the best rep possible. Now just remember that one. So when it comes up next time, you can make the right throw.
Yeah. So I was thinking about this too. When you have the matchup you want, so say you read the defense and you got your number one guy, you see who's against him. Are you looking off and you're going there? But tell me about a time when you knew for a fact it was going to be a touchdown in it, and what happened?
Oh, there's been a lot of them. I think the hardest throws are ones that you stare down, though. So even when I got this guy, it's going to be a good one.
This is a matchup we want.
You got to just fight it to not just look at it a little bit long. I'm just so much better if I react to something and then make the throw. Again, that play to Devontae was one of them. The previous play, we're playing 2017 against them. They scored late. We're down by 3. And I had this run to get us down in field goal range on third down. So we're inside the 15. And a first down, we were in 3-by-1. Devontae's backside, and we ran one of our 3-man concepts to the right, and he was on a fade on the backside. And I threw a 5-foot-high back shoulder to Devontae, and it got kind of broken up. And come back to the huddle. And it's 2 minutes, so I'm calling it, and I'm thinking, man. And he looks at me and goes, he just kind of gave me a nod. And I put this in his words, but to me that meant, come back to me. Just throw a little better this time.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, yeah, I will. Just watch this. So I called the exact same play, and they ran the exact same defense. They ran a quarters push on the backside. So all I do is hold the backside safety, and I knew I had Devontae.
So you're looking at safety?
He's got a rookie on him. And all I said was just don't let that safety get outside the hash. So I dropped back. I stared at him with kind of closed shoulders. And all I was thinking was 8 feet, 8 feet. Just get this one at 8 feet. It's going to be a touchdown. And I threw it at about 8 feet and kind of a medium back shoulder. It wasn't like a stopping one. It was kind of like a transition back shoulder. And I felt good. I felt really good.
Yeah.
But we used to run this play with Jordy Nelson over the years where it was hard play action to the left, half roll to the right, and he'd run this weave post. We called it a fish route. Fish stood for far hash.
So did it look like a lazy route?
Yeah. But he was the best at it. I mean, he could set it up. So he pushed it up vertical with his speed. He broke to the corner, and then he was breaking to catch the ball on the backside hash at like 55 yards.
And you're rolling that same way?
I'm half roll, action to the left, half roll back to the right.
Gotcha.
And kind of like crow hop into it a lot of times.
I see, yeah.
And one of my all-time favorites was we were playing on Christmas against Chicago. And it was at this point we'd hit a bunch of these when we called the play maybe once every other game or so, or once every 3 or 4 games. And when I'd call it, the line got excited. They were like, oh, touchdown right here. And that kind of put a little extra pressure, like, oh, don't fuck this up.
Yeah.
But this one in particular, it was like a cold night and the ball gets a little fat and a little bit slick. And I was like, man, it's going to be a touchdown. I know it. They're going to play, too high. I'm going to come up off the fake, peek backside. And sure enough, I came up, hard fake, came up off it, looked backside. The safety went with the post corner on the backside, and I crow hopped into it, and I was just like, oh, man, don't screw this up. And I just threw a friggin' dime to Jordy. And, it was one of the best throws of my career just because it was like 15 degrees. The ball gets tough to throw, and I hit him just right in stride, and it was just like, that was awesome.
Did you guys win?
Yeah, of course. We always beat the Bears. I lost to them like a couple times.
What do you do? I mean, how often are receivers every receiver thinks they're open every time, right?
Yeah.
How often does that, are you dealing with that?
We had some good, we had some great guys over the years. I think the receiver position can get a bad rap for being a diva from time to time, but we had some great guys. The thing I always asked was just like, just don't show me up.
Like how so?
Well, like be demonstrative or put your arms out to the side or make some motions.
Looking up.
Put your hand up or jump up and down. And you see some guys around the league. And listen, I've made some body language of some guys over the years and apologized for it. But for the most part, there's always a good understanding. Like, listen, I'm trying to get you the football, but I'm also going through my progressions. And you might be open sometimes and not get the football. But doesn't mean I'm not watching that film back and locking away every one of those reps. So next time we have a play where I've seen you run a great route on this, I'm going to come back to you. And it happened in 2014. We played in Seattle to start the season, and we put Davante Adams on the right side and Jordan on the left side all game. And Davante was going against Richard Sherman, who was at the time the best corner in the league. And he was a rookie, and he ran some incredible routes. But I basically threw to Jordy the whole game.
Because you're going away from Sherman?
Going away from Sherman because Sherman was amazing. And Jordy was, on their number 2 corner.
Right.
And Jordy was one of the top receivers in the league. And I watched that game back, and I texted Tay. I said, hey, I saw that, what you did out there, and that was impressive. And I promise you, it's games like this and reps like this that are going to go a long way in our future. And sure enough, he had 3 really incredible games, including a playoff game against Dallas that year as a rookie that was incredible. And over the years became the best receiver in the league. And it was moments like that where you just, how do I find a way to connect with these guys when they're pissed? Because they're watching the film too, going, oh man, I ran this great boom right, you didn't throw me the ball. I ran a great slant right, you didn't throw me the ball. What are you doing? Like, do you not like me? Do you have a problem with me? But when you find ways to encourage those guys to just stay with me. Just stay with me. And even when Tay was the best receiver in the league and the entire game plan of defense was to take him out of the game, I'd always tell him before the game, I'd say, I love you, bro. Stay with me. Because they're going to try and take you away. But at some point, I promise you, at some point in this game, they're going to go one-on-one. And when they do, I'm coming to you.
And how soon can you notice that? Do you notice that with emotion? Or how do you notice it?
Well, I mean, some wouldn't even try and hide it. They put a corner on them and they put a safety over the top. We played Baltimore in 2019. And 2019 or 2020. We played them in 2012. Someone in 2020. Played them in 2020. COVID. There a couple guys were out, and everywhere he went, there was 2 guys. We motioned him across, and
This is
3
Adams?
guys. This is Devontae. 3 guys went with him. But I said, don't worry, bro. I'm still going to come to you. At some point, they got to play one high, and when they do, I'm coming to you. And he still ended up having a really nice game. But yeah, sometimes they don't even try and disguise it. It's just like best player, we're taking him away.
Right.
Like Bill Belichick, we played him in 14. They started the whole game out, and they put their second best corner on Jordy with safety help the entire time. They put their best corner, Darrelle Revis, on Randall Cobb the entire time because Randall was a Pro Bowl that year. And they put their third corner on Logan Ryan on Devontae Adams. And so
That's a good matchup for Adams.
even though he was a rookie, it was. And Devontae went off that game. It was one of his first games where he really, really played well. And then Bill adjusted. Then he said, all right, well, this young kid's killing us. Let's put our big corner, Brandon Browner, on Devontae. Let's put our best corner, Darrell, on Jordy. And let's put our third corner on Randall and give him help in the slot. And when they did that, I went to Jordy. So, yeah, it's just about getting a good pre-snap read and then trying to find it's all percentages. Where's my best matchup? Where's the highest percentage of completion? And which guy gets open the most? And try and give him, at least the first look.
How come do you think in that Seahawks game they didn't put Sherman on Jordy? That first one.
That's a great question. They never flip-flopped. So in all the film we watched, some teams over the years would do what we call star coverage. So their best corner is going to flip sides. So Patrick Peterson did it forever when he was in Arizona. So he would wait kind of we'd be in the huddle, they'd be in the huddle, and he would be in the middle. Like a lot of times, even on corners, and we got 2 great ones in New York, in Sauce and DJ, they'll play their sides. Right, so Sauce will be on the offense's right, DJ will be on the offense's left, and they'll just they'll stay where they're at. But Pat would hang in the middle, and whatever side Jordy would go to, he'd go to him. So some teams will do that, but we knew Seattle, they played their one high coverage. Sherman was going to be on our right, and Byron was going to be on our left.
I see. Yeah, and then how often it's you as a quarterback, who their number one. How often do you want to go at him? How often do you want to beat their best defensive guy?
Of course you want to beat him. I mean, I wanted to, we played Seattle in 15, and Jordy tore his ACL in preseason in Pittsburgh. So we ended up going and getting James Jones after he got cut from the Giants. And Devontae had hurt his ankle, so he was kind of banged up most of the year. But James kind of our number one. And I told James in the locker room before the game, like I like to do, and like an hour before the game, I said, listen, at some point when we get across the 40, they're going to jump off sides. And I'm going to come up in the pocket and look left and throw no look to you. And what I want you to do, if they jump and you're on my right side.
How'd you know they were going to jump off sides?
You just kind of knew.
Yeah.
They had a couple guys that were jumpy. We're at home. My cadence has always been a weapon. So I told JJ, I said, listen, I'm going to step up in the pocket and look left to hold Earl Thomas because Earl covered more ground than anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, he was incredible free safety. I want you to run
what were they called?
The Legion of Boom.
Yes.
I'm like, I want you to run a weave post. So go vertical, push it out, and then run a post. I'm gonna get up in the pocket and look left and throw a no look to you down the middle. And only when they jump and only when you're on the right side. So this is what I love about smart players. Like Mike McCarthy used to always say, the smartest players are the best players. So I tell JJ this an hour before kickoff.
Yeah.
We're in this, I don't care whether it's first or second quarter, but I can feel they're a little jumpy. We're on like the plus 30, so on the 30-yard line going in. And they jump off sides. I step in the pocket, look left, throw no look to JJ for a touchdown on Sherm.
No way.
So I just knew, like, there's certain plays I'm like, I want to get Sherm back.
Yeah.
Because Sherm is a hell of a player.
Right.
So we set this thing up. It happened, and JJ's on my right. It happened just as we said it. But there's certain, you watch the film, and every corner has maybe 1 or 2 routes that you feel, even if they're the best in the league, like, I think we can get this on them. Like when Josh Norman was one of the top corners in the league, he loved playing outside leverage and on top.
At Carolina or where?
But he was in Washington at the time.
Yeah.
And he played so much outside leverage. I said, listen, anytime we got a slant, I'm going to come to your side if Josh is on you. Because Josh is so good at jumping stop routes, out routes, staying on top on go routes. The only one we can really get on him is a slant route. So I want to make sure he respects that. So I was told, whether it was Jordy or Devontae or JJ over there, I said, you got to slant on Josh, I'm coming to you. So every corner has certain routes where you feel like a little better about throwing their way. Now, some guys are so locked down, even Sauce with us. Like, Sauce is so good. Sometimes you just get lucky to, like, fit one in because if he's not holding his guy, he's locked up and the guy's not going anywhere. Al Harris and Charles Woodson were like that, where there's only a couple routes that I felt like, I think I can get Al on a double move maybe in practice. Mm-hmm. And Charles has got to be like a back shoulder transition ball, otherwise he's going to pick me off. So it's just like you got to be really, really calculated.
How often? Because it seems like Seattle, they were very vocal back then. How often were they talking shit? Like,
they're great shit talkers.
Yeah,
fantastic.
And then would you, like, on that no look, did you ever say anything back?
No, I think you gotta pick your spots. I love Sherm though. I mean, and we're buddies now. When I see him,
he's got a great podcast.
He's probably, it's hard to think of a guy who was better. Like I said, Charles Woodson's the best player I played with. Mm-hmm. Sherm's kind of after Charles, and he was kind of the guy for a long time, probably the best corner I played against. But yeah, Earl's a big shit talker. Their D line, Cliff Averill, Michael Bennett, big shit talkers. KJ Wright. It was some bad dudes. I mean, they were good players. They were good shit talkers.
You know who else was a bad dude? Who did Tanner? Who did Biden fight? Corn Pop. Do you ever hear that story?
No.
Corn Pop was a bad dude. Biden said that.
Oh yeah.
He's going to fight him behind the gym.
Corn Pop.
Anyway, when you said bad dude, I thought of Biden.
Weekend at Bernie's.
Yeah. Hey, but you know who was one of my favorite Seahawks? I don't know. This isn't really the topic, but Cam Chancellor.
I love Cam. Cam was quiet though.
Was he?
Cam was a silent
God, he looked
assassin.
like a badass.
He was one of those guys like Julius Peppers. Like, Julius was one of the baddest dudes I've ever played with. I mean, just absolute baller. You hated going against him.
Yeah. Like,
when we played him in 2008, he was on Carolina, and he had a couple personal fouls against me. Like, I was running to the sidelines on the red zone, like about the 10-yard line. I was about a yard from the sideline. I'm like, this guy's going to give up. I kind of gave up a little early. Maybe not stepped on the sidelines, and he fucking whacked me.
Lit you up.
And got a big penalty.
Yeah.
And then we playing against him in Chicago. And he hit me high and bloodied my lip. And I'm like, he's just one dude you didn't want to piss off. We played him one time, and the first play of the game was, we're going to motion down and run a crack toss to his side. And I'm like, why the hell are we going to make the biggest, meanest, baddest dude on the field mad and play one? Like, he doesn't say anything.
You got a receiver coming to block him?
We had like a tight end who's going to come down and crack the shit out of him. I'm like, that's stupid. Why are we making the meanest guy out here potentially?
Yeah.
But the baddest dude on the field, mad. And Cam was the same way. Like, Cam didn't say a whole lot. He just let us play do the talking. But if you pissed him off, like, that's a bad dude. You don't want to get hit by that guy. But the rules are different. Like, you could still hit guys over the middle back then. And Cam was, especially in that defense, the way that Earl played, the deep safety, the way the corners played together, and the backers, their drops all work together with Bobby in the middle and KJ in the middle, and that pass rush. Cam lit some dudes up.
Yeah.
He would have been he's a generational type player. Like, if he'd been playing, he would have been the Jack Tatum, like back in, in the 50s and 60s, 70s. Like, he would have been the craziest headhunter, like the Steve Atwater, the Ronnie Lott. I mean, that's the type of player that Cam was.
Yeah. I also like the guy who got Redskins and he got killed, got shot.
Sean Taylor.
Yeah, he was.
Sean was incredible player. One of my favorite, probably my favorite Sean Taylor. He picked me off one time in 2010, but my favorite Sean Taylor clip was from the Pro Bowl. I think Brian Mormon was the punter for the Bills. He runs a fake punt, and Sean just laid him out. Back when actually people played hard in the Pro Bowl. But that's the type of player Sean was. He was 100% all the time.
It reminds me of Pete Rose and I think the All-Star game coming in, bowling over the catcher.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, are we trying to win or what are we doing?
Yeah, it's tough to watch. Like, the NBA All-Star game recently is like
terrible.
It was just like,
freaking
what are you even
terrible.
doing?
I hate, at least back in the day, like when Kobe and Michael and those guys played, it might be fuck around for 3 quarters, but fourth quarter it was on.
Yeah.
And that's what
people D'd up.
Yeah. And
now it's like 200 to 190.
Yeah,
like,
it's a layup drill.
Yeah.
I can't stand
And guys
it.
shooting half court threes, and I'm like, what are we doing? Now, Dame, made a couple of them. I don't mind that because he's a Milwaukee Buck. But
Yeah. So are you a big Bucks fan?
well, I'm a super tiny minority owner of the Bucks. So I'm a giant fan of the Bucks and Giannis and Middleton, and getting hated to see Drew Holiday go because he was a part of our championship team. But
Yeah.
But Damian Lillard has been one of the top players in the league for a long time, and him and Giannis seem to be figuring things out now with Doc Rivers taking over. So,
Are they winning now? 'Cause
yeah, I think they're
struggling.
40 and 21, and they've been playing better defense. Like
Okay.
their defense wasn't great the first kind of half of the season, but they've been playing a little bit better defense. And Giannis, the other night he had like 45 points on like some crazy shooting, like
Yeah.
16 of 20 or something. He's so dominant in the paint. He's averaging like some crazy amount of points in the paint every single game. And then he gets to the free throw line. Now he's making his free throws. And then he also figured out his jump shot. Now he's making some threes every now and then. So
That's
as long as we got him, we got a chance. And now we got Dame Lillard. We got a guy who can score.
Yeah.
In the fourth quarter when the game on the line, he can break down his guy. He can shoot from literally anywhere. We saw in the All-Star game, made 2 half-court threes. But
I know.
But yeah, so I feel good about our team. I don't watch as much NBA. Like I grew up in the '90s watching MJ and the Lakers, and I was a big Kings fan in Northern California. In the turn of the millennium, where Weber and Bibby and Vlade and those guys were playing really good. And
Yeah, we were just talking about how good they were back in the day. I mean, the Kings they're freaking good.
The Robert Horry shot still haunts all Kings fans.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Up 2-1. That 3 to win it to change that series was tough.
Big shot, Bob.
Yeah.
You do have a good story. I just saw it on Club Shay Shay, but or Marshawn Lynch was talking about. I think he was a freshman, and he talked about how you saved his butt. I think, but like you did some behind the back handoff. What happened there? Because we're big Marshawn fans too.
I love Marshawn, one of my all-time favorite teammates. I only got him 1 year, and it was kind of a muted year. He was the backup. He wasn't even the starter, but he was still Marshawn. And
could you tell he was like a freak
from the start? I mean, he used to always challenge me in throwing competitions. He could throw a ball 60 yards. He's still like
really,
he never lets the truth get in the way of a good story. That's told by this story, but but he still always says, "Oh, I used to outthrow you at practice and stuff." He had a hell of an arm. I mean, he's an incredible athlete and incredible career. But we ran 24 power at Cal, and he ran 25. And so I opened up to 24, and he was on the other side, and I kind of gave him a left-handed behind the back handoff. And I think as you have to do from time to time to show your teammates, you'll back them up. I think I probably stuck up for him and said, maybe I called it wrong or something. And you never know what, just in life in general, there's throwaway conversations or throwaway memories that you might have doing something, saying something to somebody. And it's happened to us as well, that I'm sure little things that were said to me when I was a young player or acts of kindness that went so far that are core memories for me.
Yeah, you'll never
For those
forget.
people, they might be a throwaway. They might not even remember it. But it's those little moments that can stick with somebody to let them know, like, yeah, I got your back.
He might have got his ass chewed for a couple different things, and then that was going to be like the big one. But because you saved the day and said, "Oh, maybe I called the wrong play or whatever, pivoted wrong," you saved that. I mean, so that's why it stands out for him.
Yeah.
Which you thought maybe was throwaway. You didn't know.
And to me, that is a throwaway. Like, even though it was a behind the back handoff, like I was like, oh, whatever, it's a funny play. Marshawn went the wrong way, and
Yeah.
But that's what's cool about our sport and life in general, is that you just never know random act of kindness or just doing something for somebody and not expecting a return can change a person's life, perspective, view of you, whatever it might be. And that's just a little tiny story. But there's so many of those moments for me growing up in my career where somebody took the time or did something nice for me or stayed extra. I had an incredible dear friend of mine to this day, Danny Meehan. And Danny was like my big brother in high school. And he would spend so many days after school throwing with me. I was a freshman, he was a junior, I was a sophomore, he was a senior, he was 2 years older than me. And those moments meant the world to me. To have somebody like care about me, believe in me, take time, didn't have to like help me get better. And to him, he might never even remember those things or think about them ever. But to me, those are like core memories of like, man, Somebody believed in me. Somebody cared about me enough to like take some time with me,
Right.
and help me get better. And there's 100 moments like that from high school, from junior college, from Cal, and throughout my long career in the league where guys have done something that they probably don't even remember. That just really stuck with me. Could be things that coaches have said to me. Jeff Tedford said a number of things to me over the years at Cal, my 2 years, that were like super impactful and meaningful. I mean, I sat in his office one day after our rough practice, and he said, "You need to take a breath." He said, "You're going to have a great career here and a long career in the NFL." And it just like totally calmed my nerves.
Yeah.
I was like, damn, this
Yeah,
guy
he believes
really
in it.
believes
Yeah.
in me.
Yeah.
And there's such a beauty in that, where to him, he might not ever even remember that conversation. That's probably nothing to him. He's just like trying to like make sure his sophomore quarterback could get through the day, who's dealing with, the insecurities and emotions of being a first-time D1 athlete. But for me, that meant the world to me. And so I try and keep that on my mind, that every little conversation, every walk from the locker room to the team meeting room, you might say something to a guy that's gonna change their life for the better, and
It matters.
because it happened to me. And that's how I tried to approach my time with Jordan Love. Is I remember what it was like to be a backup behind a legend, and to wait, and like, how can I give him an experience he can look back on and go, man, I'm thankful for this and for this and for this and for this, and I'm thankful because now we have a great relationship. So I could text him throughout the year and encourage him and tell him, hey, great job. I love watching you play, and seeing him have success. It's hard, I think, for some people in life to be able to cheer for other people. Just look at social media. Nobody wants to like, they want to just come down on you and smash you and pile on.
Yeah.
But there's a good piece when you can cheer on other people, whether it's friends in your life, loved ones, family members, spouses, teammates, like cheering for those guys. And that's what being a good teammate is about. Is like, if you're on the sidelines and a guy in your position group is out there making plays, are you in the dumps?
Right.
Or are you cheering that guy on the first one on the field, jumping on him, handshake with him, super pumped up? Like, that's what I love watching from the sideline. This last year was really getting to see, like, what are these guys all about? Like, when they're standing on the sidelines and you're a tight end and Conklin's out there making big plays, are you pumped up? Or are you like, fuck, I wish that was me? When Garrett's out there making plays on the sidelines, are you like, man, I should be out there.
Yeah.
I'm getting screwed right now. You're like, that's my boy G out there making plays.
Right.
It's a mindset.
Yeah.
And I think there's something really beautiful about that, to be able to like celebrate other people's success.
It's probably a tough dance in between, because I would think like,
well, there's the ego. The ego's going, I could do that.
You mentioned that
I'm getting fucked right now. I
death
could do
of
that.
the ego. Yeah. I mean, I could see, like, in some ways, and I don't know because I don't talk to him, but I could see Brady leaving New England, wanting to won a Super Bowl and hoping New England failed, because then people are like, see, you should have appreciated me. I think a lot of guys have that even without saying it, because they just want to feel appreciated. So it's hard. I mean, those situations are hard. If a team goes another way or whatever, I think it's super healthy to be able to like celebrate other people winning, even at your same position, or even to be supportive of Jordan Love. It's like, that's not easy.
No, it's not.
That's not easy, because you were the man in Green Bay for a long time.
But I always tell these guys, what is this game really about? If you get one thing out of it, it's the relationships. Because the stats and the stupid memories that I have, like, unfortunately, I can't get rid of those, but the stats and the wins and the losses, at some point 20 years from now, who's going to really give a shit about that?
Right.
But when you want to call up a buddy to see how he's doing, or you need some help, or your buddy needs some help, like, it's those relationships that are going to last a lot longer than your health, than your memories, than the joy of, the wins and losses. Like, in the end, that's just trivial. We play a sport. It's beautiful. It's given me a great platform, given me more money I could ever deal with, and opportunity to speak, and fame and notoriety, and a lot of great things come from that. A lot of weird things come from that. But in the end, it's given me the best friends in my life, coaches, players. Every day it seems like I'll talk to somebody that I played with or currently playing with, and it's just like those are my core friendships for the most part that I'm going to have with me the rest of my life, thankfully.
It's crazy to me, because I'm pretty dialed in on social media, and I see all the bullshit things people say. But what's crazy to me after sitting here and spending the day with you and talking to you is people will say, because of your stance on vaccine or COVID or whatever else, that they'll say you're not smart. And it's like, or, you know, what, bro science or whatever. And I was like, you remember every play from your whole career, every situation, plus all these other, you know, multi-layered thought processes that you have about dealing with people. It's like, couldn't be more smart for somebody, you know, when I'm talking to somebody, I'm like, this guy is like super intelligent. And because of some thoughts on vaccine or trusting your own immune system, all of a sudden you're labeled as dumb. It's insane.
Yeah, there's a lot of things you can attack me for that might seem, you know, vaguely reasonable, but the intelligence thing I think was really an interesting thought because, you know, I was always a good student. I got a good SAT score. I'm curious. I read a lot of books. You know, people don't like it, but I do a lot of research on my own. If I don't know about something, I want to learn about it. If I don't know about archery, I'm going to go like watch your page. I'm going to go study things. I'm going to go look at, you know, different things about archery. What type of bows do people like? What's the best bow? What's the strategy for it? What's the technique for it?
Yeah.
And it's the way I approach everything in life. If I don't know about something, I want to learn about it. I'm curious. I want to keep learning and growing. That's why I love to read and love to research things and love to be up on what's going on. And if I don't know about something, I want to learn about it. And that's what my thoughts on the vax was.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, when you start talking about UFOs like I have, and then you take a stance that's labeled as anti-vax, you know, instead of, unfortunately in culture today, instead of attacking or debating, which is a better way of doing it, the content of what I'm saying, they attack the character instead. Because when you debate or even attack the content, especially as we've seen more recently, there's not a lot you can say that's going to hold up against what I've been saying since the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lazy take. It's a surface level take. It's just like, come on. I mean, but
that's the playbook. That's the playbook of cancel culture. It's silence, censor, and then name call. You know, and it's the same stuff that unfortunately, there's certain terms that are used now on social media in a society that can try and shut somebody up. You know, you're anti-vax, you're a conspiracy theorist, you're flat earther, you're anti-Semitic, you're a bigot, you're a far right wing, whatever it might be. And that's just kind of the playbook that they use.
Just diluting the message.
Yeah. Instead of going, well, let's see what he's saying and let's attack the content of it.
Smoke screen. Yeah. It's I mean, I'm just struck by you're just a deep thinking human. It's just like, what, I don't know, because I've read some of the comments and I'm just like, oh my God, these guys couldn't be more wrong. But so I was back to football because I was curious about this too, is being a quarterback and being in the high pressure games and winning Super Bowls and all that. Tell me your thoughts on the pass call of the Seahawks on the goal line with the Patriots.
I loved it because I wasn't a Seahawks fan at the time. I hated it for Marshawn because I love Marshawn.
I know, because we talk about Marshawn and I just think about that play and going, I've never seen a play where Marshawn couldn't get a yard.
People forget what happened on that drive. There was a ridiculous lucky catch that Curse made
on the back.
That Curse made.
It bounced up and landed.
To get him down into there.
Right, I remember that.
And we had just lost in the absolute worst way 2 weeks before to Seattle.
Oh, did you? Okay.
Yeah, we gave up a fake field goal for a touchdown. We gave up a 2-point conversion. We gave up a 16-0 lead. We gave up an onside kick.
All in one game.
Yeah, everything went wrong.
Oh, man.
They jumped off sides, didn't call it. I threw a pick to Sherman. A lot of crazy things happened. We got down the goal line twice on the 1-yard line and kicked 2 field goals instead of going for it. Or
what was the score of the game?
Well, we lost in overtime 28-22.
All those fuck-ups in that tight of a game still?
We were up 16-0, and we rushed like 7 guys from a side, and we used to always do this, and they ran a fake field goal and threw a touchdown to get to 16-7, and we were still up trying to put the game away. And we punted, and they got the ball back and drove down and scored, and then all we had to do was get the onside kick, and one of our up guys, instead of blocking like he was supposed to, letting Jordy Nelson just get the onside kick.
Yeah.
He tried to get it and fumbled it, and they picked it up and went down and scored. And then people forget we actually went down and scored a field goal to tie the game to send it to overtime, lost the coin toss, they went down, scored a touchdown, and we lost. So I was not rooting for Seattle. So I did not.
That's a painful
hate,
loss.
Yeah, I did not hate to see that at all. But not a good play call.
No.
A lot of people think that because of Marshawn's personality and the fact that he is always been kind of anti-authority, which I love.
Yeah, of course.
He used to like stay out at halftime sometimes, and there's stories about some of the stuff
he wouldn't talk to the media.
Wouldn't talk to media. Yeah. That maybe they didn't want Marshawn to be the MVP of that game had he ran that ball in. Maybe they wanted the quarterback to be the MVP, and so that's why they threw it on the 1 yard line. What's interesting is, and people don't ever bring this up either, is we played 2 weeks before against Seattle, and we ran the exact same play. And Devontae was at the point, and it was either Jordy or Randall was off the ball. And if Devontae just blocks his guy or runs interference, it's a walk-in touchdown.
Right.
So we had run the play 2 weeks before.
Okay.
So I don't know if Bill had showed them that clip that we had ran against them because it was flipped now. Now it was the Seattle offense, but they tried to run the same play. And, Malcolm obviously made the interception and won the game, but I didn't hate to see that.
Man, I mean, yeah, I've heard the conspiracy theories about, Russell was the star of the team type thing, or like the golden child.
Marshawn was the star of the team, but they wanted to kind of maybe
they wanted Russell to be
it up a little bit,
I guess. I mean, I was always a bigger Marshawn fan than Russell.
Everybody loves Marshawn.
I don't know. I've never heard anybody say they don't love him. Yeah,
he's the best.
But anyway,
because you know why? Because he's authentic. He is himself all the time. He came in an interview with he was with Amazon doing because he's still loosely involved with the NFL in a lot of different ways, which he should be because he's super marketable. He's hilarious, and he's like the best dude ever. And he came with Amazon to do an interview in Lambeau, and I swear it was like the first 30 minutes. I don't know if he knew we were on camera, and he was swearing and saying a bunch of crazy shit. I'm like, I think we're filming it. I can't use any of this right now, but that's just who he is. He's such an awesome dude. He's always been the same. He's extremely authentic, and I think that's what guys resonate with when it comes to Marshawn, is that you just know what you're going to get all the time.
Yeah, and I will admit, I've always been a Brady fan, so I loved that the Patriots won that game. So it wasn't like I wanted any of them to score.
Yeah, I love Tom too. I was definitely pulling for New England
when they won that. Do you love Tom really?
I do love Tom.
Okay, but yeah, we were jumping up and down because the Patriots were going to win. But crazy game.
Just hand the ball off 3 times.
I know.
He's going to get in.
Well, how hard is it to win the Super Bowl?
Obviously really hard because I haven't back in a long time. We've lost.
You got one, so should you feel satisfied with the one, or should you want more?
I feel satisfied with the one because there's so many great quarterbacks that never won one.
Dan
Marino was the biggest one. Jim Kelly went to 4 and never won one.
I know.
So
I've been in hunting camp with him before.
So I'm glad I got the one, but when you win one, you think, we're going to be back every single year. It's going to be normal.
Because that was 20.
It was 2010. And then people forget. We won our last 2 of 2010. We beat the Giants at home. And then we beat the Bears. And then we won 4 playoff games. Wild card, divisional, NFC Championship, and Super Bowl. And then we won our next 13.
The next year?
To start 2011.
Whoa.
We won 19 straight games.
Oh, my God.
You win 19 straight games, you're like, we're going to win every single game. You never even think twice about it. And not just that. We're going to win the Super Bowl, too. We're the best team in the league. I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
It's got to be.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Dolphins won 17 the 1 year, I think. And then
Patriots
won 18 to start.
Yeah.
But that felt amazing. I mean, you just knew we're going to win the game.
Yeah.
And we lost in Kansas City in week 15 that year. And then we won our last 2 and then had a bye, then won divisional game. So you just think, no, we lost a divisional game. We lost to the Giants that year, our first playoff game. And then we went to NFC Championship in 14, went to NFC Championship in 16, in 20 and 21, and lost all 3 of those on the road, and then the one against Tom and the Bucs at home. So, yeah, you just think you're going to win it every single year. when you're on a roll like that. So it's hard.
Yeah.
It's so hard to get there. You got to play your best ball in the most important moments, and every little mistake, especially in those big games, is amplified. I felt like, the 11, we were a great team, great offense, but we weren't the most well-rounded team. In 14, that was our best team, and we lost to Seattle in Seattle when all that crazy stuff happened. We had beaten New England in the regular season that year and felt that, if we'd gone to the Super Bowl, we would have won. God. 16, we had to win our last 6 in the regular season, and then the wild card and divisional, and played Atlanta in the NFC Championship and didn't feel we weren't the better team. The better team doesn't always win.
Yeah.
But they were a better team, and they beat us. And then in 20, we went to San Fran in NFC Championship. We were a really good team. They were too, and they beat the hell out of us. They were probably a little better. At 21, we felt like we were the best team, and we lost at home to Tampa. So best team doesn't always win, unfortunately, for us. It's really hard to get back there. I mean, obviously, Mahomes and Chiefs have been on a run, and Tommy won 7. Doesn't look that hard for those guys, but for the rest of us, it's it's the beauty of our sport. It takes a lot of guys to make it happen, and if you don't play your best game, you don't win in the playoffs.
Well, okay, 2 things. So in 2014, I think you said losing to Seattle with all that shit that went wrong. How much is that coaching, and how much is that? I mean, when you have a 16-0 lead, you gotta feel pretty good, right?
Especially there.
Yeah,
and we picked off Russ 5 times that game.
5? I mean, I don't know. If you looked at those stats, you'd think there's no way.
No chance.
The Seattle should have won. So what?
Well, it's both, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody has blame to go around.
Right.
Like the fact that we rushed the exact same the entire year on field goals. And instead of just letting them kick a field goal, and if it was like a 40-yarder, maybe he makes it. They got a good kicker. He makes it 16-3. They're still down, 2 touchdowns.
Right.
And they haven't moved the ball at all, really, against us all game.
Yeah.
Compared to, like, now it's 16-7. Now the crowd's into it. And the crowd in Seattle is the loudest place to play. I mean, it's like other than Autzen and maybe Kansas City, it's the loudest environment in the entire NFL. Like the old Metrodome was really loud, but nothing's louder in Seattle. You can't hear shit, So let them back in the game, and then obviously, whether or not it was coaching on the onside kick or just instincts that kicked in for that guy to try and make it. Like, who knows? I mean, as players, we always feel like we probably should have and could have done more.
Right.
But yeah, it's a game we should have won.
Yeah. And then, so tell me about, so you versus Brady, that's a superstar matchup. How'd that game go? A
lot of crazy stuff happened that game.
I know I watched it. I can't remember, but you remember every play from your whole
there's
life.
a lot of opportunities to win for sure.
Did you play all right?
I played pretty good. I threw a pick right at the end of the first half. There was probably holding on the play. I was throwing the Lazard down the middle on a seam route, and I think it was Murphy Bunting was playing the slot. And there's still shots and replays of him holding Allen, and he made a nice pick on the play. But they threw a touchdown with no time on the clock.
Oh.
So it was 14-10, obviously one-score game. And then he threw a touchdown literally in the last play of the first half, go up 21-10. Then they come out and
got the ball.
We fumbled.
Oh.
And now they're up 28-10. Then we kicked it in, and we started playing really good. We picked Tom off a couple times. It was 31-23. We went on a drive late in the game, and we're on the 8-yard line. And on third down, kind of got rushed and moved on the pocket. Maybe could have ran. I don't think I could have made it because I had a couple guys chasing me, but threw it away. And 4th and 8, we kicked a field goal with 2:10 left on the clock to make it 31-26.
Right.
And never got the ball back.
Oh, they ran it out. Yeah. How did Tom play in that one? You said a couple interceptions.
He had a couple picks, yeah. But their defense was so good that year.
Yeah.
And obviously Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and Scotty Miller got the touchdown. It was a good player. But they did enough to win that game. We were just a little bit off.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So, are you not 12 because of Joe Namath?
It's retired. Joe Willie Namath. Yep.
They wouldn't bring it out for you?
Joe actually offered it up.
Really?
Yeah, which I give him a ton of respect for that. But with all that respect, to me, 12 in New York is Joe Namath. And,
Yeah.
I just, I feel like I'm a historian. Like I love the history in general, but I love the history of the NFL. And I grew up watching old VHS tapes of Super Bowl highlights. And so I knew about Joe Namath and the guarantee, which kind of was guaranteed, kind of wasn't. Like, what are you going to say? Like, oh, we're going to get our ass whooped. Like, no, we're going to win. I guarantee it, Like, and again, that's how stories can take a life of their own. Like, I think it's beautiful that he was, just like, yeah, of course we're going to win, And then they went out and they won 16-7. But Joe's an icon, and Joe's number 12 for the Jets. So I wore 8 in college. I actually wore 12 in high school, and then when I got to Butte, I wore 4 in honor of Brett, because I was a big Brett fan. And
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and then I went to Cal and wanted to go back to 12, but 12 was retired. There's a man named Joe Roth who had passed away from cancer shortly after playing at Cal, and they retired his number, so I went to 8. And then when I got to Green Bay, the kicker was wearing 8, and he offered to sell it to me for like some 5-figure sum, and I was like, no, I'm just going to go back to 12. So we're 12 like I did in high school, and then all due respect to Joe, I just didn't want to take that number out of retirement.
Joe had on a fur coat, didn't he?
Oh yeah, he's a legend.
What about? Did you ever break out a fur coat?
I had some plans for sure, but when you only play 4 plays in a season, there's not a whole lot of shit you can get accomplished.
But you did show up, didn't you? Look like Nicolas Cage.
That was my last year in Green Bay.
Oh, okay. So yeah.
I started doing like some
having fun.
One year they didn't think I was going to come back, that I was going to do some sort of holdout. This was before the 21 season. And I got back to Green Bay, and I was like, what am I going to wear the first day? And I'm good buddies with Brian Baumgartner, who was Kevin from The Office. And I'd had a shirt that had his face on it. And so I'm like, I'm going to wear a shirt. Give a little shout out to Brian. And I wore these like Viper sunglasses. And people kind of enjoyed it. So I'm like, okay, how do I top this?
Yeah.
I'm a big Con Air fan. I'm a big Nick Cage fan in general. So I was like,
you look
what
just
Nick
like
Cage
him.
movie can I do here? I got long hair. Like,
yeah.
Con Air, of course,
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to do this. And our in Green Bay, Evan, our photographer did an awesome job over the years capturing little moments, and him and his staff, like I had done on video, and obviously that went some places. But
that was pretty funny.
Yeah, that was fun. Now it's a big thing. Like everybody, the first day of training camp, it's like a big deal. Like we got a big black dude who looks just like Debo from Friday. So he's always like, I think he did the Debo look again. Michael Clemens again this year. He's awesome, just a great dude. Like big, huge dude, big deep voice. But he's like 24 years old. But he leans into the whole Debo thing. So it's a big deal. Like guys have done helicopter landings, crazy cars, different outfits and stuff. But it's a little steamy in Jersey in the summertime. So
yeah.
I don't think I'm be doing any fur coats until it gets a little darker. Plus, it'd be faux fur, right? Because you don't want to get cancel too much. There's already enough things to cancel me about.
Yeah, no, I understand. And New York is like, that's a tough market too. I mean, that's what I always hear is New York's tough, but they seem like they like you. I mean, I guess what's your goals for this season? I mean, the Achilles is feeling good.
I need to be healthy. Like the goal is always to play every game. And, the most important ability you can have is availability. So being able to be out there with my guys is important. That's why I train so hard. I mean, that was so disheartening and heartbreaking about last year was the work that I put in at 39 to put myself in a position to be able to play the whole season. I mean, I grinded. I came back, as fit as I've been in a long time and hired a chef who helped me, with my diet and constant body work and stuff, just to like be able to get through the season, and then to fucking play 4 plays was really, really tough, especially with all the excitement around us with Hard Knocks and new team and we were playing on 9/11. It was just a beautiful, beautiful night before that. So I gotta stay healthy, beat back Father Time a few more years. But I like our chances. I like our guys. I like our coaching staff. We just got to put it all together. We got a fan base that's super, super hungry and desperate for wins. And I think we got the right guys. We got a good group of really talented young guys. We had the rookies of the year from a couple years ago, and Garrett Wilson, and Sauce Gardner, top corner and top receiver. We got a couple guys behind him. We're also incredible rookies and coming off great second years. Jermaine Johnson had a big year for us as defensive end, and Breece Hall, our starting running back, who had a phenomenal year. Catching the ball, had like 600 yards receiving, I think, and had a ton of yards rushing for us, and he's a game breaker. So we got to shore up the offensive line a little bit to add a couple guys there, maybe get another receiver. But I like our chances, and I feel like if I'm out there, we always got a chance.
Yeah. How often, the draft's coming up, do they ever check in on your thoughts on players? I don't know how the NFL works. Like if
it's different at every team. But the Jets have made a real concerted effort to involve me in conversations. I got a real good relationship with the GM, Joe Douglas. Him and I, talk all the time, and a lot of stuff is just sending pictures of cigars or smoking or whatever it might be. Just he loves fishing, so he'll send me pictures of him in the fish he caught and stuff, and I'll send him, what my view is looking at the sunset in Malibu and trying to make them jealous when it's raining or snowing out in Jersey. But they do a good job of getting my opinion on stuff. But in the end, they got the job to do. I got a job to do, and theirs is making personnel moves and decisions, and mine is leading and playing and getting myself ready to go. But it'll be interesting off season. A lot of stuff happens here coming up. You have free agency coming up here in the next week or so, and then you got 6 weeks, and you got the draft, and you have off season workouts, and chemistry starts to come together, team starts to come together, and then nice little break in the summer, and then end of July it's on.
Yeah, when you look at the team, I would if they check in or get your thoughts or whatever, but I could see you leaning more towards offensive needs than defensive needs. Or are you do you have the perspective okay, we're best for the team, we need a lockdown corner? Or are you always thinking about how do we score points?
Listen, special teams have hurt some of the teams I've been on over the years. So we have last year an incredible kicker and punter. Both older guys, which I love. But Thomas Morstead was our punter. He had a phenomenal season. He's in his late 30s, but takes care of himself incredibly well. And, was just a weapon for us, with hang time, with inside the 20 punts, inside the 10 punts. I mean, they were like game-changing plays. Right. We had multiple inside the 5 in multiple games. And then Greg Zerloin, our kicker, had a phenomenal year. I think he only missed 2 kicks all year.
Wow.
He's just a weapon, and he can hit it from anywhere. I mean, he hit it from 60. Every kick is a touchback for us. Those are weapons. So I'd like to see those guys back for sure. Defense, I think we're in pretty good shape. We got a lot of really good young talent. We just re-signed Quentin Williams. His brother Quincy Williams is coming off an all-pro season, finally, a backer who's had an amazing year playing next to C.J. Mosley, who's not just a great leader for us, but a great player. DJ Reed is our other starting corner, had a great season. Michael Carter's our nickel. He had a phenomenal year. Our D-line is deep. We had 6 guys deep. Got a decision to make on Bryce Huff, who's a pass rusher, had 10 sacks for us and a nice season.
Is his contract up or what?
His contract's up. But we just signed Quinnen. We got a couple of guys, we got to make decisions on inside, but we're stacked on defense. We just need to shore up the offensive line a little bit and maybe add a receiver. But like I said, you got to get to know the guys, what makes them tick, what they're into, who they're dating, what are the kids' names, what kind of music they like to do, what they like to do when they go home, and some of these kids, it's like playing role-playing games and video games and stuff. It's it's a little different.
Right.
The locker room when I grew up in, it was there was you weren't on your phone. During breaks, we're playing dominoes, playing spades, playing boo-ray, playing backgammon, playing cribbage, playing sheep's head. We're always doing something, card games or board games, and it's a little different now. So you got to find new ways to connect. It doesn't mean I'm 40, and we're gonna have 22-year-olds on the team. Who gives a shit? I got to find a way to connect with all these guys because at the end of the day, I need them, rowing in the same direction. We all got to be moving in the same direction.
It seems like knowing details and knowing people is only an advantage.
It is. When I was a rookie, we were playing the Baltimore Ravens on a Monday night game, and we were bad, and we were down 41-3.
Wow.
And they said, hey, kid, get ready. You're going in. I'm like, oh, shit. Hope somebody blocks for me.
Yeah.
And I went in late in the third quarter, and the third quarter ends. And so we switch ends. We're like on the 25-yard line. So we're walking to the other side of the field. And on their defense was two of my favorite players from when I was growing up, Deion Sanders and Dale Carter. Now, Dale Carter was a lockdown corner for the Chiefs. And the only reason I knew about Dale Carter was because when Montana got traded from the Niners, I became a Chiefs fan as well because I pulled for Joe. So I knew, obviously, I'm a big fan of Marcus Allen and J.J. Burden and Kimball Landers and Dale Carter because Dale was an awesome lockdown corner. So I'm out there on the field, and Dale Carter's out there and Deion Sanders.
Whoa.
And Deion, for a while was hated because he was on Atlanta. Yeah. And Atlanta back then was in the Niners division. But then Deion came over to the Niners to win the Super Bowl. Yeah. So we were all Deion fans. And I walked from the 25 to the 25 with Deion Sanders.
Oh, nice.
And I remember just thinking, this is so cool. And I probably said that. I'm like, some 21-year-old pimple-faced kid, like, hey, this is really cool out here. I mean, I know we're down 41-3, but like, I'm on the field with you, and you're a legend. Like it was a really cool moment, like a welcome to the NFL. Like I'm on the field with Deion fucking Sanders.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, well, I mean, prime time. Who doesn't love prime time?
Yeah,
put on a show for sure. Well, I mean, I don't know, Aaron. This has been an amazing day. Thank you so much for coming to Oregon. Thank you for everything. I mean, this jersey, look at this jersey.
Like I said, it was made for me to wear. I didn't actually wear in a game, so I can't say it's officially game worn, but it's made exactly for me.
I need his bow. But Aaron, here's your bow, and you shot it so well today. It's an honor to give it to you. It's an honor to share my life, part of my life with you and bow hunting, and let's get out there and hunt.
Yeah, I'd like to say first, thanks to Joe. Joe has been a great friend during COVID to me. And you obviously know him for a long time. He's an incredible guy. He's given a platform and a voice to so many inspirational people, yourself included. So big thanks to Joe for making this connection happen. Thanks to you and your family for the elk chili for the entire day today. It's been great. But you got a friend now. And you're welcome in Jersey anytime. And hopefully we'll be able to get out and use this thing pretty soon.
Yeah, let's do it. Well, thank you. You're a true outlier, one of the best in the game. Thank you, Aaron. I learned a lot. I actually learned a lot, not only about football, just about as you as a person. And
thank you.
I'm honored. Thanks.
Appreciate it.
All right. Keep hammering.
Every step I take, I move my truth. Every time they tell me stop, I use. Every comment, hate that makes my feel. Gather up my energy and boom. I hear them talking, saying the way that I move is so reckless. That is a part of my mind I've been blessed with. Giving my blood, so I am relentless. My fault. They want someone to blame. They send their hate. It fuels my pace. I am Roy Tough. I am the change. The few endure. Feeling like Cam Hanes.